Seductive and powerful, the sea surrounds us, calling us to it, daring us to challenge it. The awesome might that the sea possesses provides an irresistible challenge, an ever-changing course to push man and machine to the limits. As thunderous machines collide with the water, racecraft and their crews are propelled skyward, only to re-enter into the grasp of an unforgiving sea. Offshore racing, one of the world's most dramatic and demanding motorsports. Courageous men and their machines battle the sea and against other men who dare to take up the challenge in pursuit of victory. Welcome to the world of the Offshore Professional Tour. Since the turn of the century, men have taken to the sea to race each other in powerboats. Over the years, the sport of offshore powerboat racing has evolved into one of the most grueling tests of racing technology and the men and women involved. Today, these tests take place across the United States in major cities under the sanction of the OPT. Typically, the races are 150 to 160 miles through varied sea conditions. Running close to shore, the onshore spectator is treated to the finest high-performance marine racing action found anywhere. In calm water, some of these race boats have top speeds in excess of 140 miles per hour. On many of these same courses, offshore legs take the competitors out to face the unpredictable seas, sometimes rising up to 7 feet. It's here that the crew in the cockpit and the race boat must endure pounding, comparable to that which a competitor faces in a boxing ring or demolition derby. Throughout the race, crews must put all of their know-how to use as they challenge the variety of changing conditions. The boats that carry these men are all multi-engine high-performance racecraft. The goal is to keep the machines together while they battle other racers as well as the sea conditions. The glamour and excitement that is offshore racing has over the years drawn a number of high-profile individuals into the sport who are looking for the kind of challenge only racing on the oceans at over 100 miles an hour can offer. Case in point, the rugged star of television's Miami Vice and a number of feature films, Don Johnson. Johnson was introduced to the sport of offshore racing while filming Miami Vice in South Florida. Don started his powerboat racing career winning the Mississippi River Challenge, a grueling 1,039-mile run up the mighty Mississippi. After his rookie year in competition back in 1987, Don came on strong during the 1988 Key West World Championship and won the coveted Superboat World Crown. After that, as Johnson said, he was hooked. Johnson was instrumental in the formation of the OPT in 1989 and campaigned his Team USA on the national tour. Always an attention grabber in the pits, Johnson never failed to take time out to greet his fans and help the sport gain an even larger stature in the United States as one of the most exciting forms of motorsports. Don Johnson was joined in the Team USA cockpit by friend and fellow actor Kurt Russell. Kurt had many years of experience in various forms of racing, but the thrill of offshore racing was one he didn't want to miss. Throughout the 1990 season, Johnson and Russell faced off with another celebrity on the race course. Action film star Chuck Norris took the wheel of Al Copeland's Popeye's Diet Coke and found immediate success. Chuck is no stranger to high-performance powerboats. Since 1989, Norris has competed in long-distance endurance runs like the Chicago-Detroit Great Lakes Challenge. In his first ever offshore powerboat competition, Norris took the Popeyes team to victory in the waters off of Long Beach, California. The friendly rivalry between the two star-studded race teams took center stage in Miami, Florida, when lap after lap the two giant superboats did battle.
Come on, baby! Come on, baby!
Dust cleared, Team USA edged out the Popeyes for a well-earned second place behind points leader John Garrett's In Excess. But over the course of the season, Norris would not be denied. Chalking up another victory in New York City, the scene was set for a final showdown in Marathon in the Florida Keys for the title of Superboat National Champion. Norris's chief rival was once again John Garrett of Wayne, Pennsylvania. After the start, Garrett's In Excess fell out due to mechanical problems. That sent the title right to Chuck Norris, Superboat National Champion in his first year of competition. Another celebrity who joined the OPT bandwagon was 1976 Olympic gold medalist Bruce Jenner. No stranger to intense competition, Bruce soon found himself in the thick of superboat offshore racing. Jenner took the navigator duties on Peter Markey's Little Caesars Pizza. Markey's Little Caesars Superboat team played host to another celebrity navigator in New York City. MTV's Downtown Julie Brown took over the compass in Bruce Jenner's absence.
Ow, wubba, wubba, wubba.
Celebrities from movies, TV, and sports aren't the only famous names in the sport of OPT offshore powerboat racing. The sport has long had the names of many giants in the business world. Certainly the most successful and widely recognized of these men is many-time Superboat National Champion Al Copeland. Copeland and his Popeyes Diet Coke Superboat race team have instant and worldwide recognition as one of the foremost competitors in the sport. The father of the Superboat class, Copeland has remained an innovator in the largest class in offshore and was one of the founders of the OPT. Real estate developer Tom Gentry of Honolulu, Hawaii is a three-time world champion, most recently taking the 1991 Superboat World Championship. Gentry not only is one of the largest developers in California and Hawaii, but is also a leader in the manufacture of offshore racing engines. His Gentry turbocharged engine package has won 5 straight Superboat World Championships. Anheuser-Busch Brewery heir August Busch IV has campaigned with the Bud Dry Superboat race team. Busch has proved himself a worthy competitor and has combined with teammate Jeff Sofer of Miami to field one of the most exotic and innovative race boats on the water. Dan Campbell of Miami, Florida is the owner and throttle man of the Payless car rental Cobra Power Superboat. Dan is the CEO of a highly successful aviation instrument company and operates C&G Marine, makers of Cobra Power high-performance engines. Russ Wilkin of Bluffton, Indiana owns and operates one of the world's leading agricultural seed-producing companies and finished a very respectable second in the 1991 National High Points and in the Superboat World Championship in his Powerboat Marine Products catamaran. Entrepreneur Joe Mock of St. Louis is the owner of a vast chain of dry cleaning operations. Mock earned the title of US 1 2 years straight for his aptly named open-class boat, the Dirty Laundry. All of these men from very diverse backgrounds all have two things in common: the determination it takes to compete and millions of dollars required to field a competitive race effort. When the offshore professional tour comes to major cities across the United States, millions of race fans line the shores along the race course. Getting within splashing distance of the action, thousands anchor in the spectator fleets on the course. For a closer look at these racers, fans fill the wet pits before each race. These fans are not all high-performance powerboat enthusiasts. Many are seeing the sport for the first time, or may have seen one of the nationally broadcast races on television. The sights and sounds of offshore powerboat racing are in many ways similar to other forms of high-profile motorsports. But here, there is a difference. Nowhere else can the fans feel the power and see the awesome size that goes along with these giant ocean-going racecraft. Sometimes, the fans themselves are as much fun to watch as the competitors. When it comes down to race day, there are 4 separate racing classes in the OPT, all racing separate races on the same race course at the same time. The Superboat class is the newest and most impressive class of offshore race boats in the world. The boats are 40 to 50 feet in overall length and have an unlimited cubic inch displacement. Some of the 4-engine monsters generate well over 4,000 horsepower. The only real limitation is that the power plant must be an automotive or marine block. The superboats are the biggest and the fastest of all offshore classes, reaching speeds in excess of 140 miles an hour. The superboats are truly the giants of offshore racing. Here is where you'll find the multi-million-dollar race teams with up to 4 men in the cockpit pushing 4 engines for all they're worth. The awesome size and power of these behemoths epitomize the sport by leading the way in technological advancements. The OPT Open Class race boats are also the international class. They measure between 35 to 45 feet in length with up to 1,000 cubic inch displacement for gasoline engines. The open boats run 2 engines with allowances for supercharging and turbocharging. The Open Class racers run speeds of over 125 miles an hour. While not as expensive as some of the superboats, the Open Class fleet is made up of some of the finest racing boats in the world. Anytime the Open fleet hits the water, expect explosive action. Both the superboats and Open Class run race lengths of between 140 and 160 miles. Designated by the letter P, the 30 to 35-foot Pro 1 class boats are the larger of the 2 Pro stock classes in OPT. 2 or 3 engines with 600 to 900 total horsepower take these racing craft to top speeds around 115 miles per hour. Either inboard or outboard applications are allowed. Boats in the Pro 2 class are the smallest OPT racecraft on the water. Designated by the letter S, it is a true stock class with boats measuring between 24 to 32 feet with a maximum 700 horsepower and reaching speeds of 100 miles an hour. Both Pro 1 and Pro 2 classes run races between 100 and 120 miles in length. The nucleus of offshore racing has always been the grassroots boat racers of the Pro 1 and Pro 2 divisions. Although they operate out of the limelight, the competition in these classes is fierce. The boats in each class are similar in speed and design. This puts the burden of proof on the racers themselves, making this more a competition of men rather than machines. This is where courage is molded and skills are honed. All OPT classes are made up of two basic hull designs, the Deep V, or monohull, and the Catamaran, or Cat. The Deep V is the ideal hull for the rough water. The straight V shape with its strakes and chines allows the boat to cut through rough water at maximum speed. A Catamaran, on the other hand, allows a faster run on calmer water. The total design creates lift similar to that of an airplane wing and serves to minimize drag. In other words, the Deep V hull knifes through the water and the Catamaran flies upon the water's surface. The cockpit canopies you see on many offshore race boats are much more than mere windshields. In powerboat racing, when a boat rolls or stuffs, the crew is faced with a deadly wall of water. Standing between this potentially fatal impact and the racers is the cockpit canopy system. This technology originated from supersonic fighter jets. Since 1983, cockpit canopy technology is credited with saving the lives of 30 boat racers. Many competitors use a canopy from an F-16 fighter. There are two types. The most popular utilizes an open-air cutout in the top of the dome for ease of self-extrication. Other competitors seal their canopies with a hatch, completely enclosing the cockpit, offering additional protection. The big 3- and 4-man crew superboat catamarans, like the Spirit of the Amazon or Team USA, utilize another type of cockpit canopy application. This design features a canopy split down the middle and connected to a roll bar. This cockpit remains aerodynamically clean, while providing the maximum life-saving impact protection to a 4-man superboat crew. Used in tandem with a 5-point harness system, a reinforced cockpit cocoon, dunk training, and adequate rescue personnel and procedures, the cockpit canopy system is the best method of saving lives in a powerboat racing accident. Unlike most forms of motorsport, offshore racers compete in the constantly changing surface of the seas. This presents several unique situations the crews must face in the event of an accident. In offshore powerboat racing, there are 7 potential mechanisms for accident. The first is the launch, trip, and stuff. This is where the boat launches off the first wave, skips the second wave, catches the transom on the third wave, forcing the bow down deep under the fourth wave. The second mechanism is the launch, hook, and barrel roll. This is where a boat launches off a wave, peels the air out from beneath the sponsons, and then lands on one side, hooks the sponson, and barrel rolls. The third mechanism is the kite. Here, air is packed underneath the boat, and the boat takes off like a kite and flops over backward. Then we have the spin out. This is where, going around a corner, the stern comes around the bow. The boat then hooks and flops over into the turtle position. Mechanism number 5 is hull failure, which is very rare in this sport due to the construction of the hulls. Then we have collision. Collision is always a potential in the milling area before the start of each race. Fire, the final mechanism, is very rare due to the safety fuel cells and fire suppression systems on board all the racecraft. One note here, in all of the accidents you just witnessed, each of the crew members involved escaped any serious injury. That is a great testament to the effectiveness of the race boat manufacturers as well as the OPT medical and safety staff. Danger is an element prevalent in all motorsports. The risk of an accident weighs heavily on the minds of the competitors. As speeds increase, so must the courage of those attempting them. Offshore powerboat racing, however, sees heroics in the air as well as on the course. Many photographers use helicopters as an aerial photo platform. The skills involved with this aerial production are second only to those of the racers themselves. The dilemma being that while positioning the photographer covering the race boats, the pilot must constantly spot the oncoming and often close air traffic. In addition to the photo ships, these overhead swarms most importantly count the medical and safety rescue teams in their number. In seconds, these emergency squads can be deployed anywhere on the course without interfering with the race or being detained on the ground. Whether speeding to an accident site or jockeying for the ideal camera position, it's no secret that the traffic in the air adds to the excitement on the water. In all of motorsports, there is no doubt that speed is the thing. Let's take a look at the record book for offshore racing, superboat, and open classes. Tom Gentry of Honolulu, Hawaii has the distinction of being the fastest man in offshore. On March 8, 1987, Tom and his 50-foot Gentry Turbo Eagle Superboat went through the speed trap at 148.238 miles per hour. That's the fastest recorded straightaway run for any offshore class boat. On that same day, New Orleans tycoon Al Copeland set the open class world record straightaway speed at 138.512 miles per hour. Keep in mind when comparing performance standards in motorsports that a 200-mile-an-hour race car on a superspeedway enjoys the benefit of a consistent track on which to compete. An offshore powerboat racer, however, even with ideal water conditions, must contend with constantly changing water patterns. When it comes down to actual race conditions, in the heat of battle, demands posed by swells and wind chop mean the drivers have to pit themselves against the sea, as well as other competitors in their quest for high performance. Even while facing off against the elements and the competition of other racers, the top lap speeds are still impressive. On August 18, 1990 in New York, Don Johnson took his Team USA Superboat around the Hudson River course at a blistering 127.3 miles per hour average lap speed. That's the Superboat record for a single race lap. In the open class, former national champion John D'Elia in the special edition owns the record lap speed of 109.45 miles per hour set in 1988. Higher horsepower, better designs, and improved safety all have contributed to the increased top speed in this sport. But the key ingredient is the racers themselves. It's these men and women who have what it takes to push their machines to the boundary of performance. These competitors have inside themselves the heart to stand up to the test and strive to go faster and farther. The racers will be quick to tell you, though, that it's not just those who sit in the cockpit who are responsible for achieving the goal of high performance. Cadres of engineers and mechanics shoreside make it possible for the men in the cockpit to push their machines to the limits. So now that you know what the sport of offshore racing is about, what kind of boats compete, and how fast they can run, you're probably thinking about trading in your Saturday afternoon easy chair for a new superboat. Brace yourself and get that checkbook ready, because this is an expensive sport. Depending on your connections, plan on spending about $350,000 for a bare hull and an additional $100,000 to rig the boat with the necessary electrical systems, instrumentation, plumbing, fuel tanks, upholstery, and other miscellaneous hardware. Engines are perhaps the single biggest expense. Superboat motors go for approximately $60,000 a copy, and you'll need an inventory of at least 8. Let's say 10 just to be safe. That's $600,000. The engine budget for the entire season will depend mostly on lady luck and how much damage is done when a motor lets go. Then, of course, you'll need fuel to run these mammoth engines. Expect around $2,000 worth per race to fill the tanks. Over 10 races, that's a whopping $20,000. It's through the stern drives that the power gets to the water. Drives cost around $20,000 each. With a 4-engine superboat, you'll need 4 drives, another set of 4 as spares. That's $160,000. Don't forget the propellers. These beauties can cost as much as $10,000 for high-tech custom jobs. But let's go with something off the shelf for around $5,000 each. Again, you'll need 4 on a superboat, plus a set of spares. That's $40,000. Buying the boat, engines, drives, and related hardware are only a part of the total expense. A full-time crew will cost $300,000 for wages, travel expenses, and accommodations at 9 national races. The tractor-trailer rigs that double as transportation and as on-site race shops can cost as much as $150,000. Then there's a bevy of miscellaneous expenses like race uniforms, safety gear, publicity. The list goes on and on. Tally it all up, and you've got a grand total of over $1.5 million. Offshore powerboat racing is unique in the world of motorsports in that the man behind the wheel does not control the power of the racecraft. That job is the responsibility of the throttle man. Possessing professional doses of driving talent, mechanical know-how, management skills, and artistic temperament, these men stand alone in all of motor racing. Rarely will you find crew chiefs at this level who actually race the equipment they supervise. While the driver of an offshore hull deftly positions the boat on the race course, setting the line through turns and zeroing in on checkpoints, it is the throttle man who trims the boat for the conditions and makes the split-second throttle reactions which keep the boat in contention and the engines at safe rev limits. The demands for concentration are incredible as each individual wave must be considered and reacted to during the race. Approach too aggressively and the boat launches out of control. Back off prematurely and the bow nosedives. Miss throttle while you're airborne and $100,000 worth of motors scream themselves into the junk heap. The majority of throttle men in the sport are also charged with the rigging of the racecraft and crew chief duties. Artistic creations such as these are the product of the throttle man's fertile mind. Wiring, plumbing, engine selection and tuning, as well as budget management can frequently have greater impact on the race course than driving skills. In the sport of offshore racing, where a hull, engines, and drives can set you back over $1 million, it's interesting to note that the winning factor could easily be a human one. A good throttle man is said to be worth his weight in gold. Because of that Midas touch and treasure trove of experience, the men who throttle today's offshore race boats hold the fortune of the race team in their hand. One thing above all that this sport is about is racing. When these men and their fantastic machines set off on their 150-mile quest for the checkered flag, nothing else stands in the way of total, all-out competition. Nothing in the world like the feeling of victory. A job well done against the toughest rivals and against the sea. Winning is the payoff for all of the hard work both on and off the water. You can see it in the faces of the competitors when they capture the OPT checkered flag. The sheer joy of victory. In their moment of triumph, all of the long hours of preparation, the anticipation of the start, and the endurance of the battle seem to culminate in the recognition as the champion of the day. Cowboy, fighter pilot, astronaut, offshore racer. The names indicative of the same type of man. A man who knows and endures the elements. A man who has the eyes and the taste for speed. A man who can take the highest technology and push it to the limits of performance. All of these men work as part of it, face the challenge of competition within themselves. To take high-tech equipment and race it as fast as possible in any given sea conditions in the pursuit of victory, that is the definition of an offshore racer. There is no one sport like offshore powerboat racing. It combines the endurance of a marathon runner, the ability to take punishment like a boxer, the smarts and racing savvy of the most veteran Grand Prix driver, the know-how of an engineer to use high-tech equipment to its fullest, and the dollars it takes to field thoroughbred racehorses. This is OPT Offshore Powerboat Racing, the power sport of the 90s.